Hello and welcome. So today I'm going to be showing you how to replace a charging port on an iPod Touch 5th Gen. So yeah, before you even think about replacing it, you want to just double check that it's actually due to a faulty port. A lot of the time these things can just get dust or dirt clogged up in them. So yeah, what you want to do is just grab like some tweezers or a toothpick or something and just scrape around in the port and see if you can fish anything out, because it might only not be working just because there's stuff in the way blocking the connection. So yeah, after you've tried to fish out a bunch of stuff, if it's still not working, then most likely you probably do need to replace the charging port. Obviously try multiple cables. You don't want to go on in and changing out the port if it was just a faulty cable or something as well. Yeah, but once you're 100% certain it's the charging port, this is how you're going to replace it. So this is a pretty difficult repair. It does require soldering, and the soldering is somewhat advanced. You're going to need a pretty good soldering iron, ideally one with one of these T12 tips. And you're also going to want one of these really fine tips as well. Put a link to a good one in the description. It's just got to be a fine tip though, because some of the solder joints that we use here are very fine. So yeah, first things first, what you're going to want to do is open the iPod and disassemble it pretty much, as I have done off camera already. I've already gotten it to the stage where the battery's taken out. So just get to this stage. You can refer to this tutorial I made last year if you want to know how to take it apart. But yeah, after you've gotten there, you want to unscrew the motherboard and fully remove that from the housing. Or just unclip the screen and all that other stuff. And then there's a bunch of screws down there near the bottom of the iPod as well. Most of them are just around the charging port, and there is one little hidden screw that's under a piece of tape on this headphone jack here, which I nearly missed. So make sure you get that one. I think I ended up tearing the little flex cable for the headphone jack down there, which is a shame, but we're replacing it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, so now, yeah, as you can see here, all the solder joints for the charging port flex cable are hidden under this little piece of grey tape here. So you just want to peel that back. And then there's another piece of Captain tape, I'm pretty sure, that's on top of all the connections. So just remove that as well. Yeah, and you'll see on this flex cable, a bunch of it is like around where the solder joints are, a bunch of it is like adhered down. So what you want to do with your tweezers is gently just go in there and sort of lift up the adhesive all around the rest of that flex cable, hopefully without tearing anything. Once you've done that and sort of lifted it up from the parts that aren't soldered, I decided to cover everything in Captain tape because I wasn't sure if I was going to use the heat gun here, or the hot air rework station as it's also called, but I decided to just go with the soldering iron. So first things first, I put it in one of these little PCB holder clamp tool thingies. You can get these on AliExpress. They are very useful if you're ever doing a repair like this. I'm also doing this under a microscope as well, if you haven't realised. It's going to make a repair like this much easier. Since all these joints are really small and close together, I would recommend at least getting a microscope or one of those a magnifying glass or something, just because it's probably too small to see without it. If you accidentally bridge two of these pads and it's underneath the flex cable, you're not really going to be able to tell unless if you have some sort of magnification. So yeah, I'd recommend getting a microscope for something like this, or if you don't have the appropriate tools, you'd probably be better off just taking this to a place and getting them to fix it for you. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So what I do first before desoldering it is just covering the whole area in flux paste, just like this. I just use a bunch because it makes the solder flow a lot better. And now I grab my soldering iron and I just put a bunch of solder all over all these pads here. Alright, now we're going to lift this thing up as we desolder it, starting from one side and moving towards the other. And when you're doing that, you don't want to like pull it off. If you have to use any force to pull it, you run the risk of ripping pads off of the logic board. So just wait till the solder's sort of flowing and then just pull it all off in one sort of... Oh, it should just really slip off pretty much. If you're having a hard time getting it off and your soldering iron isn't that high quality, I'd recommend just getting a better soldering iron, to be honest, because you just need to be able to get all the solder flowing all at once pretty much while you're pulling it up, and you just don't want to rip any pads off of the logic board. That's pretty much all you have to keep in mind. And if your soldering iron isn't capable of doing that, then you probably just need a better soldering iron. Yeah, and I recommend using the leaded solder, not the lead-free stuff, because the leaded one just flows better as well. Yeah, but now once you got that off, what you want to do is give the whole area a wipe down with isopropyl alcohol and a cotton bud. not just to clean the flux up, but there's also a bunch of residue from that adhesive that was used as well, sort of above the solder joint area. So you want to clean all that stuff off before we put the new one on. So yeah, just grab your cotton bud with your isopropyl alcohol and just wipe it till you get it pretty much clean. Yeah, now here's our new flex cable. As you can see, doesn't have the speaker attached to it. So what you're going to want to do is just grab the speaker off of the old one. It's just soldered on with these two little joints sort of at the bottom here. So what you want to do is desolder it from the original one and then solder it onto our brand new one. And once you got that on, I think I put a piece of Captain tape over those joints as well, just because that's how it was on the original one, but it's probably not necessary. Yeah, but now grabbing our flex cable, what you want to do is line up the pads on the flex cable with the pads on the board. And now that's going to be very difficult to do if you don't have a microscope, because you won't be able to sort of see what's happening underneath. But yeah, if you do have a microscope, you will be able to tell where the pads are sort of sitting, because you can sort of see through these flex cables a little bit. But once you've got it all lined up properly, what I'm doing here is I'm just soldering a couple on one side and then making sure it's still aligned on the other side as well. And then we'll solder a couple on the other side using our very fine tip here as well. And now after we've done that, you just want to go through one by one and just solder all of these down. Could again do this with the hot air rework station, but I just think it's a little bit easier to use the soldering iron in this case. Every one of the pads on the flex cable sort of has like a little hole in it, and that'll allow the solder to flow through from the pad up onto the flex cable. But as you can see, I'm also adding a little bit extra here as well. Yeah, and I'm using some really fine solder here as well, just because it makes it easier to not accidentally bridge the pads. And yeah, so when you're putting your solder on, you just want to make sure you're not bridging any pads, not just on top, but underneath as well. Yeah, just applying as much flux paste as you can. Just makes it easier, I guess. Solder flows better. Maybe don't put so much that you can't see what's going on, but just put some flux on there. Always helps. Alright, now once you soldered them all on, maybe just go back over some of the ones that look a bit messy or something. Just make sure it all looks clean. Alright, now once you're satisfied with it, obviously we just got to clean up all that flux now, so just giving the whole thing a spray down with isopropyl alcohol again, and then just wiping it down. Alright, now removing this Captain tape here, which wasn't actually that necessary, since we didn't end up using the heat gun at all, and I think I just end up spraying the board down a whole bunch more since it was just completely covered in flux. But anyways, as you can see, that's the connector there, after I've soldered everything back down. And just bend the flex cable over so it sits as it was originally. Yeah, we want to grab a piece of Captain tape and put it over all these solder joints here as well as it came originally. So just grab a piece of tape. Yeah, and you need to clean off all the flux if you want the tape to actually stick down properly as well, because the flux will make it be really slimy and stuff. Yeah, but anyways, now we just got to reassemble the iPod. So I'm not really going to commentate over that. I assume you would already know how to fix an iPod Touch 5th Gen if you're interested in changing the charging port. Yeah, so just plug the screen back in and just screw everything back in. Put your battery back in. Yeah, and at this stage you can see I gave it a little test. Yeah, turned it on. The Apple logo came up. And now, moment of truth, we're just plugging it into the computer and seeing if it worked. As you can see, it did. It made the USB sound. Unfortunately, I can't show that on camera as the lock screen had a picture of the customer on it, so I don't really want to show that on film for privacy reasons. Now just finishing off screwing everything back together, and we'll be able to send this back. Yeah, so as you can see, this was a semi-difficult repair. If you're on the fence about whether you can or can't do this sort of repair, it's probably better to just take it to a shop, to be honest, because I don't know, you need all the right tools to actually pull this off successfully. That's probably like the most important thing, is just having the right tools. So a good soldering iron with a really fine point, probably one that uses the T12 tips, where the heating element is in the tip itself, and then you're probably going to want a microscope or some other form of magnification, at least one of the electric ones, or just anything really. You're just going to want to use a microscope to do this. You're not doing this with the naked eye, alright? Yeah, but if you are on the fence about doing this, yeah, I probably would just take it to a shop. Especially, there is a high risk of breaking it while doing this repair, so yeah. Yeah, but if your iPod Touch 5th Gen does have a broken charging port, you can just send us an email here and you can organise a mail-in repair with us. And you can just send it in and we'll fix it for you and send it back. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. Hope to see you next time, and bye.